Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests that are involved in the profession of surveying. We cover a lot of ground, including Table Lay Talk with Gary Kent, Point of Order with the NSPS Joint Government Affairs Team, Future Focus, highlighting current and future leaders of the profession, and everything survey-related in between. Thanks for joining us here on the podcast, and hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Surveyor Says. Hello and welcome to another episode of Surveyor Says. My name is Tim Burch. I'm your host, and we've got a great conversation today. I was doing my normal cyber stalking on LinkedIn, really checking out what's going on within the industry, and I come across a great post from this young man in Texas. It was a really great photo of him, certificates in the background. And he's, just really proud of the CST accomplishments that he's taken on and passed. And I thought, that is a great story. I got to find out who this guy is. So I reached out to John, and we've set this up because this is a great story. And this is a great inspiration for those thinking about CST. My guest today is John Vrablec, a surveyor from the Houston area. So I'll turn it over to John. John, thank you for joining me today. And, just tell us a little bit about who John Vrablec is, where you come from, and why the heck you want to be a surveyor.
Well, I come from a little small, kind of a cow town, about 60 miles west of Houston. I work for a company called Humphrey Company. We're a mechanical subcontractor. They specialize in plumbing, HVAC. We've got a division that does excavation and dirt work, and we pretty much do anything from residential homes all the way up to 20, 30-story buildings. We've had a huge hand in all the hospitals and the medical center down here in Houston. We probably had a hand in almost all of them. A lot of the hospitals in the Katy area, the Woodlands area. We've had a lot of big customers from Exxon, Phillips 66, and we pretty much do well, especially with what I do in surveying for the company. We pretty much stay in the large scale construction.
Well, and you're in an area that has been, I'll say, booming for quite a while. So, the busyness of the profession is probably not lost on you and what you've been doing. So that's great to hear. I tell you what. Well, how did you get into this? How did you find surveying?
I kind of got into it on accident, honestly. I was in the military for a long time. I did 8 years with the Army and the Army National Guard, and I went off to Iraq back in 2007 and came back home in 2008 and kind of started phasing out of the military and was looking for a job and really struggled with where I was going to go, what I was going to do. I feel like I worked every job there is to work. And but it was just, I didn't want just a job. I wanted a career. I wanted something to be passionate about. And I was doing electrical work. I got laid off, and a buddy of mine that works at Humphrey Company, he was in charge of the survey program at the time, and he was hurting for guys bad. And he pretty much told me, I just need somebody that's a solid person. He's I can train you. We can get you to doing this, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And I was actually pretty reluctant to accept the job. And I think I told him I'll just kind of do this until I find something else. And then, that was about 10 years ago. And I fell in love with it almost immediately, fell in love with it. I really saw the future in it.
That's fantastic, because you're right. As much as we try to push through the high schools, through colleges, and really try to engage, so many of the stories we hear is you fell into it. And that's, thank goodness you fell into it. And we've got a great asset in the profession now. I tell you what, tell me about a little bit about, because I'll be honest, this is a unique story, and you're providing not necessarily a unique service in the surveying profession, but it's not one that's talked about a lot. You're doing a lot of stuff in the surveying tasks using obviously our high-tech equipment and a lot of the knowledge base now. You're not out looking for irons. You're not out chasing titles and deeds. You're doing some high-tech surveying, data collection.
Yeah, it was really interesting when I first started in it because it wasn't very well accepted yet. I think we were one of the first subcontractors to really start using robotic total stations and staking out items for plumbing. We're doing their elevations now, their slope for their pipes that are being excavated. We're staking out their trenches, and then they install the pipe. We as-built the pipe as it's being installed. And when we first started doing that, a lot of the older plumbers kind of laughed at us. They were like, "Oh, y'all be looking for a job in 6 months." Yeah. And then it really took off. Now every contractor on these job sites have a robotic total station. They've got surveyors that work for them. I think one of the projects we just started, it's about, I'm not sure exactly how high it's going, whether it's 30, I've heard 30 to 34 stories that we're going to do.
Wow.
Last time I was out there, I want to say there was about 7 surveyors, all from different companies. And whether the concrete guys have them now, the electricians have them, plumbing, HVAC, the general contractor is going to have his surveyors out there as well. It's nothing to see 5 to 7 total stations out there.
Well, absolutely. And that's what we've really got to make sure and get across to not just the general public, but just to all of these industries, the importance of accurate measurement. And that's really what the surveying profession brings to all of this. I guess, is there anything that really stands out in this time in surveying? What's made the biggest impact on your career so far? Because I can guarantee you're going to have these light bulb moments as you go along. But what's been anything that's really stood out to you so far in your career?
Just seeing the future of it, seeing that this is something that's going to keep growing. It's not something that you'll never learn it. You're never going to learn it. You're never going to perfect it, and it's going to be a constant process of mastering it. And honestly, it'll probably never happen, but it's nice to constantly stay up with it.
Exactly. And that's, I've always heard, the old saying is, the doctors that are practicing medicine. Well, if he's not perfecting it, why do I want? You know what? We're in the same boat. We're always going to be practicing. We're always going to be trying to get better. And I love that that's something that's dawned on you and really stayed in focus, that we won't ever perfect this. And that's great. You said the guy that hired you was the guy that was running it before. Is there, besides him, was there any other mentors you've had along the way so far that have really helped you gain knowledge in the surveying profession?
I just recently started going to school for surveying, and my professors have been top notch. Professor Adam Salazar, Professor Arthur Bernal, and also networking inside of the class amongst other surveyors that are in that class. There's really been some top-notch guys that are, they're surveyors during work hours, and then they talk surveying after work. Cosme Reyes and Brian Hubbard have been some guys that have really stood out to me. Also, all the guys I've worked with too, like I said, a lot of those guys that when I first came into it, they came in right after me. So I've been working with them for almost 10 years now, some of them.
Sure.
And
That's awesome. No, and that's great. And well, and you just right there, you spoke to another, not just the mentors that are helping you, people in the industry. It's the ones you're growing with, like you said, your classmates, the ones you're growing with. That you can obviously, if you keep an open mind, you can really learn from each other on various tips and tricks and things you've experienced and things they've experienced. And so, yeah, that's what I'm glad to hear that, that's something that has helped you. I guess I want to roll right now into the whole concept of CST, because I got to tell you, my mind is a little bit blown right here and now, talking about what your specialty is in what your company's doing, what you're putting together. And I'm thinking back to the CST curriculum and really the things they focus on. And yes, it's an overall view. I got to admit, the things that you've taken on to learn to pass the various levels of CST, even though it's stuff you haven't really even touched yet, the fact is that you've picked up that challenge and passed those tests regardless. And so I guess, how did you hear about CST? Where did you get involved with wanting to learn about it and take the certification? And I guess the big question is, B, is kudos to the drive to make sure that you can pass that test, even though a big bulk of it does not apply to what you're doing at this particular stage of the game.
Well, I heard about it in school amongst classmates and my professors talking about it, and then looked into it. And it was something I really wanted, because there was nothing from the guys that are rodmen, instrument men, all the crew chiefs. There's nothing to really validate those guys. A lot of people, that unless you're making it up to being an SIT, there's really nothing to hang on your wall. And that's something I really wanted. And I really fell in love with the range of the test questions. Like, I feel like at first I struggled with a lot of the questions when running manual total stations. That was something I've never done before. I was spoiled. I'd never realized how spoiled I am with a robot. And, I was like, well, why are we learning these calculations? The data collector does it for you. So I've really enjoyed it. It's turned into a hobby, actually, of surveying the older ways. I actually just went out and bought my own manual total station to learn the older ways.
Now there's a commitment.
And
nice.
Now what I'll do on the weekends, a lot of times, I even take guys that I work with out on the weekends, and we'll go out to, the city park or something like that, and start doing as-builts the older ways, and start doing, there's even been one time we reverse engineered like curves and stuff on roads and stuff. We'll go as-built it and then reverse engineer that curve.
Wow. Yeah. You know what? My wife has always said that just living with me for these years, that surveying is a sickness. And I think the bug has bitten you too, which kudos to that. Oh, that's really cool. I guess you really kind of spoke to it already, but I mean, obviously you looked into CST, you saw the value, you've pressed yourself forward. What's your current level of certification right now?
CST III with the construction identifier.
Nice. Very nice. What do you think of 4?
I do plan on attempting 4. I haven't heard. I think it's a little bit of a different test.
It is.
I haven't looked into the details, but I failed level 1 the first time I took it. I failed level 1, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I went back and I passed level 1, then passed level 2, and then hit level 3. So we're gonna keep going.
Yeah, very good. Because I kid people, well, sort of kid that those especially some of us old timers that have been in the business for a long time, and especially a lot of the experienced party chiefs that say, "Oh, I've been doing this so long, I could just probably breeze right through that license test." Tell you what, why don't you take the CST level 1 first to check the temperature of what your knowledge base is, and if that doesn't humble you, I don't know what will. Because you're right, it is a very, I think it's a fair challenge, but it is a challenge. And to your point, that yeah, it's it really does test what you know.
I actually thought level 1 was a little bit harder than 2 and 3 because as I had a lot of random knowledge questions that you don't hear in the field, you don't hear in the office. You know what calculations to study. You can master those calculations, but when it comes down to some of the random questions, you really have to read like a history book on surveying to grasp some of that.
Well, and that's why I say I give you props, because there is, like you said, a lot of that history stuff that might not necessarily apply right now in the job you're doing, but as your opportunities expand, and you might have an opportunity to go somewhere sometime and do some boundary work or what have you, and you're going to be prepared, and that's awesome. Question for you then, based upon your knowledge and what you've experienced, it really seems to me that, and this is coming from a biased opinion, that CST is a good recruiting tool for future surveyors, and it really helps establish a career path and goals and knowing what your knowledge needs to be. I mean, would you agree with that statement?
Oh yeah, it's I've really seen the level of motivation with the guys that are already on my team just go through the roof. It's everybody wants their CST now. And once they saw me get mine, now it's a competition. And those guys are hungry. They can't wait they're almost every day I'm getting calls during work, after work, asking me questions, asking me what books to read, what books to buy, what calculations to study. It's nonstop now. But it's great. It's a healthy competition amongst all my guys, and I love seeing the level of motivation exploding.
Oh, exactly. And let's be honest that there, in any office, in any employment situation, there has to be a little competition amongst employees. I mean, that's how you get better. That's how you find a career path. That it does create but as long as it's taken in in good terms, and we're it's not cutthroat. I guess that's the thing, that as long as it helps push each of the employees along to be better. Absolutely. And like I said, I really appreciate your enthusiasm for what this program means, and how it's challenging others to say, I want to be like John. I want to succeed like he is. So yeah, what do I got to do next? So thank you for that. I guess, trying to be cognizant of your time, and I appreciate you taking time to talk to us here. What do you think can be the next steps? I mean, you've been through far enough along in the CST program. Do you have any, I guess, wishes, wants, advice on, where the program goes? Because I'm sitting here thinking, I'll be completely honest with you, because we're looking at it with the CST board. We're looking at basically expanding the program to make it, because surveying is becoming so much more specialized than it was when the CST program started in the 80s and 90s, that I'm looking at what you're doing as a specialization. So in addition to your level 3 from the construction side, maybe it goes more into modeling and some other things. And maybe we do have something that's a little more specific, boundary and title, that but anything you can think of that would help enhance and maybe expand the CST program.
I'm not sure. I'm a huge fan that they started doing the special divisions, like the CST III construction, and started dividing it up. Because when I was talking to my employers about this, and they ask about, they don't really care about if I pass a boundary test. We don't do boundary where we're at. It's all construction. Right. And so once they saw that construction identifier, it really changed them. We're like, oh, okay,
nice.
You know exactly what you're doing on a construction site.
Well, I guess that is a question I do have is, what has their attitude been in encouraging you to do this? I mean, how much are they buying into what you're trying to accomplish and actually to make their business better as well?
Well, I think I think now is they have a lot of bragging rights over other companies. I'm not sure of any other mechanical contractor, at least in our area, that has actual CSTs working for them. And
all right. That's awesome. I mean, it really is, because it does help with their credentials that, they've got somebody that has passed, and I'll be honest with you, it's a pretty high certification at this point in time. There's not too many level 3s, especially in the construction side right now. So you're in rare air with what you've accomplished.
Thank you.
Well, I guess a couple last questions. Like I said, trying to be respectful of your time because, hey, you're a working man. Any advice for somebody looking to get into the profession? Somebody that's going, somebody that like you were going, well, I might give it a try. What would you tell them?
It was the best decision I ever made. I never would have guessed that it would have taken me this far. And it's just, don't let it become a job. It's a career. It's a hobby. It's something that to be obsessed with. And, just keep your ears open. Ask the questions that you're too shy to ask. And use all your resources. Use your books, your coworkers, social media, Google, YouTube. Anywhere you can get a piece of information, get it.
Good. So I guess in the final question, I try to always ask people, and I think I know what my answer is going to be, but how's the future of surveying look to you?
Definitely technology driven. The technology is just exploding. I thought that running robotic total stations was the top of the technology food chain, and now I think GIS is exploding now, and the scanning. Now they're coming out with robots that will actually lay out by themselves. That's something I would love to see a demo on those. And then also stuff like the Trimble HoloLens technology. I think.
Oh yeah,
that's going to explode as well. Any kind of piece of technology you usually see people laugh at, about 20 or 30 years later, it's a reality.
Well, that's just it. And I get myself in trouble with parents when I tell young people and students that, when their kids are in the basement playing their video games, realistically, that's their training for that could be a future career. And that's building that 3D world. I mean, you are one that's literally doing it. You're building a 3D world of what you're going into survey. And that's what these kids can look forward to, is doing exactly what you're doing. All right. Well, John, thank you. I appreciate it. And we look forward to, you'll get through level 4. It's more of an essay take home project to do. And I can, I'm confident in what the career path you've taken, you'll be fine. You're going to be fine.
I'm pretty excited for it. I'm going to attempt it.
Oh, good. Well, that'll wrap us up for this week of Surveyor Says. We thank John for all of his hard work, and I look forward to seeing him with that level 4 certificate. And we'll see where it goes. But wherever you listen to this, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Surveyor Says podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. If you have any questions about today's episode or any other topic, please email us at info@nsps.us.com, and we are here to help. Visit our website, nsps.us.com, to learn more about our association, the programs we administer and support, our sustaining members, and information about future episodes of Surveyor Says. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.